Hello, everyone, and welcome to Film Companion South. We are here with another episode of Ask PR, and this time we are going to be talking about one of my favorite filmmakers, K. Balachandar, whose 90th birthday is coming up this week. So we'll begin with a very K. Balachandar-esque question, and that comes from Naveen, who asks if Avora Ragangal was to be remade today, would it have LGBT characters? Pick one non-KB film that was a Balachandar movie. So, yeah, I mean, I really think that if anyone would have touched a mainstream film with LGBT characters, that would have been K. Balchandar because he loved exploring the various permutations and combinations of relationships. So that would have been the man. Unfortunately, I think he passed away before. This became so visible. I still don't think we deal with much transgender characters, yes, but not really lesbian and gay characters in mainstream cinema. So yes, I think that would have been something he would have done, if not in television, then at least in the OTT streaming space, which seems to be created for somebody like K. Balchandar, because you can do whatever you want, and he would have been a big enough brand name today that he would have really used that brand name to push the storytelling ahead with all kinds of characters. So yes, I do feel that that would have happened. Regarding your second question, I think 96 is a good example of a movie that is not a Balachandar film, but that is kind of a Balachandar film, because again, it's about two people meeting after a long time and they're reminiscing and all kinds of things. Though I think, of course, Balachandar would have made it differently, but I think that that is a film that it interests me to know what he would have done with that film. Another thing that interests me is like the part in Kabali where Rajni finds Radhika Apte. That again, that portion is again something that seems very Balachandar-esque to me, because it's a reunion. What would happen if this person meets this other person, and it interests me to know how KB would have taken that scenario forward. The next question comes from FIUBS, Indian Movie Addicts from Malaysia. In your opinion, what is the greatest achievement of KB Sir? Is it giving Tamil cinema two giant stars, or encourage women centric and bold films ahead of his time that creates a lesson for new film directors? I think the biggest achievement of K. Balachandar is the legacy that is left behind, a body of work that shows that you can stay true to your sensibilities and stick within that box and yet find endless ways to approach subjects, right? Let's take his sensibilities. They were middle class sensibilities, they were Tamram kind of sensibilities, they were sensibilities that held relationships in great regard. Now with all this, he's not going and making a Bala kind of movie. I mean, the max event was probably Taputalangal, which had a sex worker character and Rajini was a rowdy and things like that. But he even that movie is a relationship movie. So he was very clear about what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do them. And to take that and make over 100 movies is not easy, right? So he basically said that you don't have to have great range in the narrow sense of the word. Your range can come in a very small box, right? That small box that you put yourself in, that itself can comprise an infinite range, and it's only up to you to explore and find that range. And I think that is his biggest legacy that he's left behind. Vijay Krishna asks, how was the response to a film like Arangetram in that time period? Can a movie like that be made today? I don't know. I wasn't around in theaters at that point, but one thing that I've heard repeatedly is that K. Balachandar was criticized by the Tamram community for showing them in a bad light. But I think that's pretty much what he wanted to do, was to kind of take, had any other person, had from any other community taken up this job, it would have been bad enough, right? Become a sex worker to support her family. But somebody from what is considered the most orthodox community, for them to take up this job creates much more of a powerful statement on screen. So I think he was very fearless about where he wanted to go and how he wanted to go about it. And I think this movie is a prime example of that, and it was a hit. I mean, it's one of my favorite period of K. Balachandar starts from around this time, Arangetram, Avaloru Thodarkadai, and it goes on till about Sindhu Bhairavi, because this is the phase where he leaves behind he started off with Neer Comedy, and the first set of films in the 60s, he still, I mean, they are still cinematic in many ways, but they were still kind of stage bound in some ways. because the dialogues used to sound like they were somewhat from the stage, something that would sound great on a stage, but not necessarily in cinema. But in this Arangetram Avalar Todarkade phase, he really started using the camera to tell the story more than the dialogues, even though you still have the Balish and the trademark dialogues. But yeah, he started using the camera to tell the story more, and I think that phase of mine, at least for me, it ends with Sindhu Bhairavi in 1985. That's about the phase that I think is his golden age. Though he did make great films before and after, but that's his consistent golden phase for me. Even though there were odd movies here and there, like Poikal Gudare, which kind of are a little bit of, you could consider them not so great, but this is a very, very consistent phase for him. Nitya 648 asks, what is your favorite female character of KB and why? For me, it is Sujata in Our Girl. That is also my favorite K. Balachandar film. One of the things that really interests me in filmmakers is how much of themselves they put into their films, right? Like there'll be patterns that you can see in people, in film. Certain the really good filmmakers, the ones who write from inside them, there'll be patterns. You'll call them Balachandar-esque, Tarantino-esque, Spielberg-esque. You'll kind of call it Bhansali-esque. So the really big Maniratnam-esque, Mishkin-esque. So the really big filmmakers who do their own writing, they'll put like things in them that you won't get anywhere else. And for me, the thing that I really liked about K. Balachandra, what I found fascinating about him, is how he seemed to love women, worship women, adore women, and yet strangely resent them in a way that he would always give them a kind of a weird and sad and tragic ending, kind of not really making them have this happily ever after situation. Like even in Sindhu Bhairavi, it's like Suhasini has been with Shivakumar throughout the film, but at the end she hands over the baby and she leaves. And the way the film shows it, it looks like she has made a big sacrifice and is leading this sannyasin kind of life. Though one could very well argue that she's perfectly fulfilled and that's her life's calling and all that. But somehow when the movie shows it, it seems like there's some sadness there. And he did that consistently in Arangetram. The Pramila character, Shivakumar is willing to marry her and says, "I forget your past. That's all okay. I'll marry you." That would have been a great idea to the movie's already told its message. It's already conveyed what it wanted to do. So it could have just give her a nice ending, right? But no, I'm like, you're getting into this point where she's beating a dalda dabba in front of the sea, like that other, Paithiam character did earlier. The way he worshipped and yet, shrank away from, adored yet somewhat, and idolized and yet somewhat, you know. I don't know if hatred is too strong a word, but something in there, there's something there. It's like, it almost makes you want to play a shrink and say, okay, what was this guy really like with his women? And, what is this thing that's driving him? I think that's fantastic. And I think Our Girl is a prime example of this kind of woman, because a typical tendency of mainstream directors is to put people through a series of tragedies and then give them a happy ending. And boy, this film's ending is something. If you haven't seen Our Girl, do see it. It's a great film. I think it lasts beautifully today. The Kamal character, the Rajni character, the Bharani character, everyone. I think really, I think the movie really lasts. Sorry, it stood the test of time, in my opinion. And watch it and let me know in the comment section, because I'm really curious to know, what you guys think. The younger ones, like those of you in your 20s, watch Our Girl. And if you're watching this, let me know what you think of this movie, because I'm really curious to know if it has traveled the way I think it has. SSN Maverick asks, one of my favorite KB films is Avaloru Thodarkadai. Do you think the climax is out of place? The scene where Sujata's character swaps her sister as bride because no one objects. See, again, the point is to kind of drive home a dramatic scene, right? The point is that a middle class woman is expected to bear burden after burden after burden after burden, and without the slightest bit of reward. And I think that is being driven home here. Is it realistic? Will people let her do that? I mean, there are people who ask her, but the point is that she has always been the controlling person in that family, and I think she kind of says, this is what I have to do, this is the final burden that I have to bear. So even though this is something that that I don't, she may be breaking down inside, but this is something that she has to do for the family because the whole family is like that. And that again goes back to the earlier point that I said is like, you're a woman, dude, you're not getting a happy ending. I don't know why that happens, but that happens in his movies a lot. You can say that, okay, Rekha died in Punagamanan, so maybe you want to give Revati a happy ending. Dude, no, not happening. She's also going to die. So I think that's really fascinating in his films. I mean, of course, like I'm sure some people will find it perverse and other things, but I find it very fascinating because I'm a big fan of this autistic obsessions, whether they make sense or not. And I think here we have a genuine person who put a lot of himself on a screen and let us kind of gave us some kind of x-ray into his thought processes, and I think that's really very valuable and fascinating for the time period. Prabha Chennai asked a very interesting question. Can you provide a view on Rudraveena and Unnal Mudiyum Thambi? I think Rudraveena is a better movie than Unnal Mudiyum Thambi. I really think that's a better movie. He continues, how watching the same story performed by different actors would affect your analysis of the movie? And isn't there some kind of signal loss by watching a movie which you aren't native fluent in a language that you aren't native or fluent in? Definitely, there is a signal loss when you're watching a movie relying on subtitles or like the person next to you. But I think what happens in this film is that because I saw Rudraveena after I saw Unnal Mudiyum Thambi, I think I was able to kind of relate the two films together. But generally speaking, yes, there is a signal loss. So a person who grew up in a Tamil milieu is going to recognize Tamil films a lot more, or rather be why. But I'll tell you one more thing, that's it's not just the language that causes signal loss, it's also the culture. So people say sometimes that, how are you reviewing foreign films so confidently? This is Ingmar Bergman's movies are made in Sweden. How do you know Swedish culture and how can you relate to it? I can't. I don't know Swedish culture. I'm relating to the characters through my prism of having been brought up in Chennai and all that kind of stuff. But let me tell you, that same signal loss to an extent exists as much with Ingmar Bergman as with Bharati Raja, because I've maybe visited a couple of villages, but I have never really lived in a village. I really don't have any friends from that kind of a rooted village situation. Most of my friends who are from villages, either, they came away from villages early, so they go back to on holidays or things like that. But that kind of rooted village story is again new to me. So I take what the film gives as opposed to somebody from who's rooted in that village custom, who might be able to point out things like, illa avanga andha mari panna matanga, they will, this is not the way things are done, but I have no way of knowing. So the signal loss is not just with language but also with culture. So I just say, if I were to restrict myself to reviewing based only on that language and culture, then I would only be reviewing urban Tamil films. But you can't do that always. So I think one goes to review other films with the understanding, and of course with the reader also understanding, or the viewer also understanding, that you are not putting forward some authoritative, the last word on this. You're just giving your take on this whole thing, and I think that's what every film review is in a way. But thank you for asking that question, because it's a really important question, and I don't know if I've taken it before, but it was nice to take it here. The next question comes from Naren 2788. He says, Varumai Niram Sivapu, Unnal Mudiyum Thambi, Sindhu Bhairi, Avalor Thodarkadai are my favorites. PC Shriram sir mentioned in FC South interview, scenes in KB sir films are stagey. I want to know whether you felt the same while you watched his films the first time. See, when I watched his film for the first time, I was a teenager, right? And I was still not really like cinephile or anything like that. I don't know if I still am, but at least I know a little more about things like staging and all than I did at that point. So I watched them as pure story. Like I watched a KV movie, like I watched a Visu movie, like I watched an SP Muthuraman movie, like I watched McKenna's Gold, like I watched Ben-Hur, everything. It's just like I go sit in a theater and take in the experience and kind of thing. But I still was able to see that there was something different about a KB movie than in those other films, because there was something very sharp, that sharpness, like the sharpness in dialogue, the sharpness in characterizations, the things that you would not find. There was one of the things that you always have to give to KB is that you can never use the word generic with his films. The man never, you may hate his characters, you may hate his writing, you may hate so many things about his film, the endings, the story, whatever it is, but the man never gave a generic character even some Tata will be reading a Hindu newspaper or something like that. He'll also have very specific characteristics. He'll have very specific traits. He'll talk English in a certain way. He'll there'll be something. And I agree. Some people find annoying. But what I'm trying to say is that there was something so specific about every single thing that he did in his films that they seemed so different, even if you didn't know things like staging and all that kind of stuff. But coming back to the staging question, one of the reasons they seem a little stagey to a cameraman like P. C. Sriram is also because Sriram comes from the film school aesthetic, right? So you're exposed to foreign classics and all that. Whereas, and he's also like a part of the 80s movement, which is primarily, it's not the 70s movement, which is mostly naturalism, right? With Balu Mahindra, Bharati Raja, Mahindran and all that. They're trying to do naturalistic kind of films with available light, trying to show like things as they are, realism, naturalism, whatever is the word you want to use. Though again, these are all slightly loose terms that I'm using. Whereas by the time you get to Mani Ratnam, and that is because that's where P.C. Sriram was really able to show what he wanted to do. You're getting into very formalistic, very stylistic kind of a representation of reality. So you're still talking, the characters are still somewhat real. They are speaking ordinary day-to-day language and all that kind of stuff, but the staging is very, like, what the director does, that cliche when you want to show a director in a movie, they usually show like this, right? That what you see here, that rectangle of what you're forming with your palms, that became very important in the Mani Ratnam era and then on, because they were not saying, I'm just going to let the camera, like Balu Mahendra, I'm just not going to let the camera, follow this couple in a very natural way, and just make that natural way, part of the thing. I'm going to make that couple stand against a very specific stage, and or an arch, or a lamppost, or so. I'm going to get a very specific kind of framing. So that's what I think Sriram was talking about, that specificity in the staging that came with Mani Ratnam in Tamil cinema. That was kind of earlier, which is not to say that again that Udri Pukal is a brilliantly directed film, brilliantly shot film. I'm just talking about the flavor of the staging, right? The naturalism versus the formalism, the change in the cinematic quality. So that is, I think, what PC really was talking about when he talked about staging. Though if you go back to the 60s Balachandra films, they are a little stagey, because they are, again, you don't have many shadows. Every part of the set is lit in the same way. So there's bright light everywhere. There isn't much shadow happening, except maybe in a night scene. So those kinds of things are very dramatic things, because on stage you want every part of the stage lit as much as possible, because you want the audience in the last row to see what's happening. So that's the kind of stuff that's happening. But after a point, you do find Balachandra, in my favorite phase especially, some of the best scenes in Aburu Ragangal are the scenes created through shadows. Watch the movie and you'll see what I mean. Amar Monk asks the next story. Balachandra came very late to Ilayaraja, only during Sindhu Bhairavi, while with A.R. Rahman, he gave him duet much early in his career. What do you think about KB's choice of music directors, and simply about music in his films? I think Balachandra was one of those directors who was just happy with the team that he had, right? And the team that he had was MSV, first Loknath, and then Raghunath Reddy. So the cinematographers. So you're talking about people that once you form a set team, there's no real reason to go from the team. I don't know why the switch from MSV happened, but again, it didn't happen directly to Ilayaraja. It happened MSV to V.S. Narasimhan, who did Achamele Achamele, which is a very, very good score. And then you get to Ilayaraja for 3 films, which is like basically 4 films. You're getting Sindhu Bhairavi, you're getting Punnage Manan, you're getting the Rudraveena, Unnal Mudiyum Thambi, Pudu Pudu Arthangal. So maybe 5, like a few films there. But definitely the work that Balachandra did in terms of music, definitely, MSV was the best music director that he got, simply because, that range of subjects that MSV got to travel with with Balachandra. I mean, a song like Ilakkanam Marudo, Ilakkiyam Manado, that softness in that song, which is like a kind of it's beautiful, and from there you're going to Ninithala Nikum, which is like, it's a pop musical, it's a young film. You're having rock in Sambho Siva Sambho. You're having a wordless song with just humming. you just have that kind of experimentation in an album. It's like he took him all the way from there. So I really think MSV and KB were the pair because of the sheer volume of films that they took together. And one thing is, like, KB was like Woody Allen, right? He kind of put out a movie every, like, there was one or two KB movies every year. Like that prolificity was enormous. It was like just the movies would keep coming so frequently. So MSV got to do that enormous range of films, whereas with Raja it was a relatively smaller range of films. As to why the change to A.R. Rahman happens, this is not a gossip show, so I'm not going to talk about that. But let's just be happy that the Raja phase existed, the MSV phase existed, and the Rahman phase existed. End of story. Very diplomatic answer, but I'm going to leave it there. Vinendran asks, you mentioned that there are many Money Search movies which many people liked, but you didn't, and vice versa. Are there any movies of KB sir similar to that to you? I don't like Pudu Pudu Arthangal, I'm sorry, but I know people love that movie and they love that score, but I'm not a great fan of that score either. I'm not a, but that movie is, I don't know, that Saukar Janaki and that old man and that I don't know. It's something about it just gets to me, and I know people love this film. They just love this film. They love the score, but something about it just doesn't get to me at all. Another film that people loved and was a big box office hit, but didn't really work for me is Vanamellai. That idea is lovely, but somehow that film just it didn't do it for me at all. And I guess these are the two films that come to the top of my mind in terms of films that people love, but I kind of don't. So yeah. Anand B asks, would you consider his movies like Tanir Tanir, Oru Veedu Iruvasal as parallel cinema? Would you still classify them as mainstream, just pushing the boundaries? I think they would be mainstream, just pushing the boundaries. I don't think it's parallel cinema exactly, because you are still talking about a fairly melodramatic construction, and there's a certain way that they are told that I don't know. See, first of all, that parallel cinema itself is a very loose term. I'm not really. It's so. But yeah, let me just say, would I call them art movies? Probably not. That's the easy way to say it. Arvind Venkat asks, KB had a wonderful stint in television in the 90s and created gems which are miles ahead of the mega serials we get today. What do you think of his television career? Do you think KB's stage play style filmmaking worked better in TV serials than in movies in 90s and 2000s? So I'm going to disagree with you there because I don't think that stage play style happened after a point. So I'm really going to disagree with you here. But yeah, he kind of, I think, discovered that the kind of films that he wanted to make, the stories that he wanted to tell, are suddenly working better in television, where you can also explore an arc better. So that's like what people are doing on OTT today, right? They're saying, okay, I want to explore this character over 8 episodes over one season rather than just having a 2-hour film. So that way the character gets a better treatment, and I think that's what really he was doing. And when you see those serials today, they are so nice, so actually I'm a big fan of all the the Suhasini spin, all these things. Yeah, you might disagree with some things here and there, the style or whatever it is, but there was a time when television was so nice. You got home and you want Marmadesam. You got home and you wanted to watch all this stuff, and like and it wasn't like oh, it's Indian stuff and it's bad and all that. But now you can't watch anything on television. At least I don't know when was the last time I switched on a television set, because there's nothing there that you actually want to watch, that you'd rather watch something on OTT, right? It's like that. And I think Balachandra was a true pioneer in that sense in the television space, because he really extended his brand of filmmaking into a multi narrative arc kind of thing. And I think that's quite amazing for somebody to do it so late in his career and adapt to it also so well. Madhumita says, one of my favorite features of KB's film serials was the man-woman friendship. He did not let the characters go beyond friendship, even when the audience sometimes yearned that they take it further. Yeah, I agree. And this kind of falls under the umbrella of relationships. And what I mean by specifics is that it's not just the central characters, right? In Abura Ragangal, the relationship between Srividya and Nagesh, who plays the doctor, is as important as, in a way, as the relationship between Srividya and Kamal, who plays the lover. So I'm like, he used to really give such specifics that the doctor is, you get to know that the doctor is such an important part of Srividya's life, as important a part as this man, and he's been there much earlier. So similarly, you have Sulakshana, and the way she confides in the Delhi Ganesh character in Sindhu Bhairavi. You have all these offshoots of this, what you would call a woman relationship, is probably just put in the leads. But even these other people, they have so many interesting things that they're doing. So I really think this man was like, he knew how to draw relationships and keep them interesting. Yeah. Kartikeyan asks, "Hi BR, what is the one thing that you feel makes Neda Nijamagradu so watchable even now? Thanks." I have an answer for it. I don't know if everyone's going to be happy with it, but it is the rare taming of the shrew kind of story that is so humanistic. You know, it's really something that where you feel for the Sumitra character, you understand her stubbornness, you feel for the Kamal character, you feel for the Sharat Babu character, you feel for the Shobha character. None of them are painted in black or white, and they're all human beings in that. And I think that's why, even though it is a classic taming of the shrew kind of story, it doesn't feel like one. And I think that's really what in fact, the taming of the shrew aspect itself came to me a few times after I'd watched it, because it was like, first time I watched it, you're just watching it like that. And of course, the brilliant songs, and the fact that you the specificity of showing this man as a dancer, showing her as a dance teacher with that soda booty glasses. All these things are so nice, because everyone, like in Tamil Nadu, when you look around you, people don't look like Tamanna or Kajal Agarwal. They look like Sumitra. They look like I'm not saying people don't look glamorous, but that nice thing about bringing recognizable faces into the screen, so our bonding with the character increases, because we all think, oh, you know what, I know somebody like Sumitra. I have somebody like Sumitra in my own family. That lends a touch of authenticity to this whole thing. And that was fantastic, because at that point Kamal was acting with Sridevi and all these other people, and to have him which is Sumitra, and who frankly looks a little older than him in the film because of those glasses and her stern demeanor and things like that. I think that's amazing, and I think that's why that movie works even today. Rajesh DJ asks, "What is your favorite movie of the Kamal KB combo and why?" This is actually a no-brainer, Varumai Super, because a the character is called Rangan. No, but otherwise also, it takes a very very serious subject and treats it in a classic, entertaining way. So it's not preachy. There are certain scenes that are still valid today, and you know what I really like about the older films. Sometimes they give you a snapshot of the time they were in. It's not just unemployment generically. It's about a specific kind of what it was, what Delhi was like, what people did at that point. The guts to have a song fully in Hindi, MSV's "Tu Hai Raja Main Ho Rani," fully in Hindi, because the story is taking place in Delhi. All these things, just that film, it embodies to me the guts of not just K. Balchandar, but also the guts of Kamal Hassan, who was like, at that point, not yet the Kamal of the Nayagan, post-Nayagan, Pushpak phase, where he would readily keep doing this all the time. That and these roles were mixed with his other masala kind of roles, much more, they were rarer. So I think that's really what makes that movie very relevant, and it's sharp. Again, it's very sharp. That's kind of nice, and it has these little comedy scenes, like them trying to pretend that they have food to eat when Sridevi comes, and then she kind of finds out, and there's not comedy, but yeah, it's like it's entertainment. Basically, when I say entertainment, I mean engagement. It engages you. It's a movie about an issue, but it engages you. And again, when I was talking about the sharp supporting characters, I'm also talking about the painter, right, in this movie, who actually is mute, but he explains the film's title. He doesn't speak at all, but he explains the film's title. I think I could just go on about this film. In fact, maybe I'll do a flashback about this film. But yeah, that's my favorite K. Balchandar Kamal film. Yeah. Final question comes from Naga Praneeth. He says, veteran filmmakers like K. Balachandar, K. Vishwanath tend to lose connect with audience after a certain time, whereas their contemporaries in Hollywood like Scorsese, Spielberg keep getting better with time. I prefer watching Varma Neram Sivappu and Maru Charitra to later movies because I connect with them better. Yeah, I do too. I've always wondered about this. Why do some people lose it after a point? I mean, I can understand you not understanding their story, or us not connecting to the story and things like that. But I don't understand how they can lose their craft. It's like almost like you forget how to write. Like, an author, you can understand that maybe at 20 he wrote brilliantly. The story itself was brilliant, but he's started repeating himself, and by 60 he no longer knows what to write. But you will still see the writing part of it, right? You'll see the craft. Here in India, the craft also vanishes. It's like at one point they were making brilliant movies, and suddenly they start making movies that are grammatically wrong, syntactically wrong, movies that don't know visual. It's almost like people are making movies without visual grammar, and I don't know why that happens in India so much. I've always wondered what would Guru Dutt be like had he, you know, had his life not been so tragically cut short. But I really, I don't know why this keeps happening in India so much. But I think with KB, the point was really not because we don't really think of him as that much of a visual filmmaker as much as somebody who's very strong in terms of content. I think what happened after a point was that he became a little unsure of what the audience would accept, because by the time the 90s happened, you're already seeing a very strong hero oriented. The Rajnikant that acted in a Tillumulu is no longer there. He's no longer there. He's like this big ass mega star, superstar, and the audience is like it wants these big movies. When you look at the 80s to 90s, you find even non Balachandra movies like I don't know, soft, what would be called soft films today. Vaidegi Kathirindal, for instance, or Pudu Vasantam, which is like cusp of 90s. These kind of films become increasingly rare, and it's almost like the audience have begun to say, இதெல்லாம் நாங்க வீட்ல பார்க்குறோமே, நாங்க எதுக்கு இதெல்லாம் பார்க்கறதுக்கு தியேட்டர் போனோம். So by that time that thing happens, I think he started feeling a little restless about it. I think he started feeling a little unsure about himself, about what do I do? I make this. Should I make a Rail Sneham, or should I make Rail Sneham into a movie? So I think some of that unsureness came on screen, and I also think he physically started because his physical health started deteriorating. I think some of that also contributed to his later stages. But but I still I'm not a fan of Pathale Parvasam as a movie, but there are sharpnesses there that it's still not a generic film. Like I said earlier, it's still not a generic film. There's a very specific stuff. He's not handled it as well as he would have earlier, but there's still that Balachandra-ness in that film, and I don't think that anyone can take away from him. So that's the note I'm going to end on. I'm a huge fan of his, so you probably heard more nice things than bad things about him, and I think that's how it should be, because we're celebrating a birthday, a 90th birthday. So wherever you are, sir, a very happy birthday to you. Thank you for everything that you've given us, and thank you all for the questions, and keep watching Film Companion South. See you soon in the next Ask VR.